There's a common misconception that simply streaming is going to help you grow as a content creator, or that once you have X, Y, and Z assets, you'll suddenly be the best streamer in the world. While it's true that certain assets, such as a custom VTuber avatar or a unique overlay feature, will help you stand out, these features are kind of like cotton candy. They're fluffy and eye-catching from a distance, but are ultimately not very high in nutritional value. I've seen a lot of friends and colleagues get frustrated about their lack of growth or success in terms of streaming, whether it's on Twitch or other platforms. I'm going to be talking about some hard truths that are most likely killing your streaming career, and things that you can do to help finally get your foot in the door and actually make a difference. These aren't going to be sugar-coated answers either, so it might be a hard pill to swallow. The first and most common issue I see is lack of consistency when it comes to streaming time. Success in streaming relies heavily on you coming back around the same time every week, since it gives your viewers something to look forward to, and they're able to pencil in that specific time to tune into your work. Time is an asset that is hard to buy, and when you're streaming, you're essentially trying to convince people to come and see you. The fact of the matter is, while we ourselves feel like individuals, in the grand ocean that is entertainment, we are a tiny little drop of salt. People may be more inclined to watch larger streamers with established content that they're already familiar with, and unfortunately, what algorithms exist on platforms like Twitch tend to favor larger streamers since it benefits the platform as a whole. As much as it sucks to hear, Twitch is ultimately a business, and they're more likely to focus on what you can do for them rather than what they can do for you. If you can make them money, they'll push you out to more people since they'll have more to gain for it. I'm aware how cynical this can come across as, but even on a micro scale, it's important to remember that the benefits of your entertainment factor are directly weighed by the cost. If your streaming times are inconsistent or you go on long hiatuses, people are more than likely to move on to other content creators. Unlike art or YouTube videos that people could go back to see in the future, streaming is kind of like the news. It's most relevant in that day or week that it was posted, and the primary value for a lot of viewers is the prospects of being able to interact with you live. Unless you have some hardcore fans or people who want to catch up with what they missed, your most valuable time is the time that you are streaming. I want to make something clear, and that is that it's important to take breaks. Unlike film or close-ended projects that have a final product to make, streaming is a long-term marathon, and you will need to pace yourself on it. I just took a week off of rest after years of streaming non-stop, and honestly, I would encourage you to make a point of taking time off at least a couple times a year to recharge. Especially if you're a career streamer who streams 3 to 4 times a week, you need to treat yourself as if you're working a normal job, where you allow yourself a healthy amount of vacation to take a break. Otherwise, you'll burn out. Don't wait to burn out. Your best steps are preventative measures rather than recovery after the fact. If you're someone like me who has health issues or might not have the ability or endurance to stream multiple times a week, that's more than okay. One of the reasons a lot of us get into streaming is the relative flexibility to take a rest day without risk of impacting coworkers in the event of something health-related coming up. If you find yourself struggling with quantity, then focus on quality. Have one really good stream a week where you're most energetic and are able to bring your best. And just stick to that day every week. As a side note on the matter, date and time that you stream does play a key factor in your streaming success. Especially if you work from home, it's easy to forget that other people are at work or unavailable during the day, so you may have to consider moving your time to either weeknight evenings or weekends. Think about it this way. How many comedians are doing a show on a Monday afternoon? How many football games are at 9 a.m. on a Thursday? There's a stark difference between the entertainment industry and more standard businesses that are allowed to work during normal business hours. The live entertainment industry relies on when their main consumer base is available to attend their content, which means that live performers are more than likely to work on weekends and take time off during the week. This is a difficult lifestyle change for a lot of people, especially for those who may take time to spend with their family on the weekend. The trick isn't to give up your entire weekend, but to have a dedicated time that you're willing to give up for your career. The most common times people are available are weekends and the afternoons and evenings, though Saturday mornings are also pretty viable. Obviously, these are speaking from an American cultural perspective, since I don't know what the general work week looks like in countries like, say, Norway. But on the matter of that, it's also important to include time zones in your consideration. As an American, the most common availability for me is going to be based on American time zones. Since my audience is primarily from the Western Hemisphere, I'm going to be appealing to audiences within this area. According to Twitch's user-base statistics in 2025, about 23% of their user base is from the US, being the #1 most active country on the platform. So, by nature, the site is going to be a little more active during peak availability hours for their prime demographics, such as the US or Europe. This isn't to say that the US is the only time zone you should appeal to. It's just that percentages among other countries may be more equally distributed compared to what's essentially a bunch of tiny countries in a trench coat. If you absolutely cannot give up your weekends, I would highly recommend considering the evenings for the US. Around 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time seems to be an ideal time since it's when a lot of people are off work. Notice that I emphasize people at work. And that's because, while younger people like students can provide things like ad revenue and viewership, a majority of your earnings as a streamer are going to come from direct viewer generosity rather than passive ad revenue. Luckily, the two groups have more or less the same range of availability when it comes to your times, so you won't have to make any major changes. But for the sake of information going forward, when I refer to your audience, your primary demographic aim should be working adults. The thing is, while I can't give all of this information now, there's a strong possibility that things will change in the future, which brings us to our second major point. Doing any form of online entertainment requires the ability to be flexible and change at a moment's notice. The content that worked one week might not work for another week, and especially when your primary income in this case is content, you're going to have to adapt quickly and be ready for unexpected swings. Let's use an example. For every 10,000 channel points that someone spends on your stream, Twitch rewards you $1. It's not much, but encourages people to stick around for long periods of time since you've provided them an incentive to interact with your stream. Now, let's say that Twitch suddenly announces that they're taking away the dollar for points reward. Suddenly, everyone's had the rug pulled out from under them, and the people who rely on that income are going to have to think of something fast to make up for it. This obviously isn't a real scenario, but it is a reflection of the impermanence of the market and the preparedness you'll need to exercise. I don't see this as a way of stressing you out or to increase anxiety, but rather to give you a very important tool to add to your tool belt. Resilience is the most important skill to have as an adult. Whether you're working for a regular business, working for yourself, or not working at all. Being able to roll with the punches and get back up after taking a serious punch is not only extremely helpful, but also necessary when it comes to surviving in the current environment. Streaming and any form of entrepreneurial venture is a high-risk, high-reward system when it comes to investments, but it can also mean that you're going to be dealing with unexpected measures. You're going to end up dealing with scammers and people trying to take advantage of you. You're going to deal with unexpected hardships and financial barriers, and even if you're making consistent content, you're going to have to shake things up every once in a while to keep people interested and keep up with the change of flow. I tend to approach being a streamer like being a farmer, in the sense that growth and payoff take a lot of time, patience, and consistent care to achieve. There's a lot of moving parts to the machine that people will only really notice with time. So if you guys want me to make more videos like this, let me know in the comments and I'll do more deep dives. Another point that I need to make is that the things that you want to stream aren't always going to be what works for other people. I really like playing Final Fantasy XIV, and a lot of people on Twitch also enjoy it. But since it's not something that my audience is drawn to, I don't stream it as often. Sure, I could build up an audience around 14, but it's not the only thing I want to focus my content on since I'm primarily an artist. If you're just starting out, or you're in the lucky position where people are coming just for you, focus on doing the content that you enjoy and build your audience around that. I've been streaming for about 5 years, and while my stream schedule does change, it does become clear what my audience is most interested in watching. And when you rely on streams for your revenue, you often tend to swing towards what's going to help you pay the bills. Analyzing what gets the best reception and what people keep coming back to is an essential skill when it comes to growing as a streamer. I tend to sit down every 1 to 2 months and think about what's growing and what's stagnating. Especially if you're doing a long-running series with a game, unless people are there for the people behind it, you'll notice that the growth and interest will dwindle as time goes on. Especially if you don't have a series of VODs or an easy means of people catching up and getting invested, long-term series will eventually start seeing diminishing returns. Let's get back to the matter of the value of time. Which would you choose of the following? 2 hours of scrolling with instant dopamine hits, or 2 hours of a VOD with lulls in energy and interest? Short-form content has become increasingly more popular, but also comes at the cost of higher engagement requirements. Unless you're watching a compilation or have a playlist on autoplay, short-form content requires more active engagement while streaming, and long-form content can be watched more passively. This brings us to our third major point, which is that you'll spend as much time cross-promoting as you will be streaming. Success when streaming isn't reliant solely on just going live and being entertaining on the hot mic. You're going to need to make shorts and long-form videos to upload to YouTube, since Twitch doesn't have an algorithm that encourages growth or discoverability. You're going to need to build a Discord server as a means of keeping your community in the loop. You'll need to make schedules to communicate when you're going live so that people can plan for it. Commissioning other artists or making artwork of your brand will also help draw eyes to it, and the odds are is that you'll be relying on multiple platforms like Blue Sky or otherwise to draw people outside of your current niche to grow your audience. To make things very clear, you should not look at other people as a means to an end for your personal growth. This is going to be especially poignant for point 4, but you should have at least some level of earnest nature when reaching out to people, or in the very least recognize that it's a business investment rather than attempting to make friends with someone when it only suits you. Streamers and artists do talk, and when it becomes clear that you're using someone as a means to an end rather than out of honest intent, that's a very quick way to become a pariah in the community. People are people, not stepping stones for you to become bigger. The reason I bring this up is that, especially in the Twitch sphere, collaborations and raids are an essential means of not only growing, but also meeting new people. I mention this because it's something I'm still working on. I'm personally very socially awkward and have a difficult time reaching out to others out of worry of inconveniencing them by taking up their time. I haven't reached out to people I'd like to collaborate with due to my own personal limitations, such as health and anxiety reasons. If you're planning on doing a collab with someone, it should ultimately be for the sake of fun and spending time with the person in question. Obviously, there is a certain level of business transaction to it since both of you are dedicating your time, but let's use an example. I have a friend, Springheart, who I've been streaming with for years. We do pretty frequent collabs together, and while collabing does benefit us in a numbers sense, my personal main reason for doing it is just for the sake of fun. It's a chance for me to be silly with a friend of mine on stream, and it gives us a chance to play a game together in spite of our busy schedules. There's a stark difference between collaborating for the pure gain and collaborating for the sake of fun. I know not everyone who streams together becomes fast friends, but in order to play off of someone, you do have to have a certain closeness, or at least compatibility. It becomes obvious when someone is forcing it or acting awkward on stream. Streamers are good actors, but we also know when two puzzle pieces aren't clicking together, right? This all comes down to the final point, which might not seem as obvious, but makes all the difference. Why are you streaming? Are you doing it out of a passion for the craft? Are you doing it just to make money to escape the 9 to 5? Whether you're an artist, an animator, a YouTuber, a streamer, or in any kind of creative field, the foundation of your work is going to be the determining factor of where your career goes. If you're doing it just for the sake of the numbers, odds are you're more than likely going to end up crashing and burning when you don't get the immediate payoff you were hoping for. Success in streaming is incredibly fickle and requires both long-term endurance and work. You'll often put in way more for it than you'll get out of it at first, and like growing a tree, it's going to be a long while before it ends up bearing fruit. Sit down and ask yourself, why? Why are you doing this? Are you doing it for yourself, the money, the fame, the cross-promotion? If there isn't some reward in the process, odds are you're not going to feel the same motivation as someone who's chomping at the bit to stream. And obviously, even if you have an earnest passion for the craft, there's still going to be days where you're not feeling like it. If it's a case where you're streaming as a job, there's going to be a certain level of not enjoying it due to the frequency of streaming. Take breaks where you need to, and if you discover streaming isn't for you, that's okay too. With the current state of economic distress, a lot of people have been turning to content as a means of either starting a career or in the very least doing a side gig that would help bolster their income to make ends meet. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, since it means more entertainers, but in order to have a healthy entertainment economy, other people are going to have to be able to be making money in a normal job in order to support you. I'm not saying this to discourage you, but rather to bring forth a hard truth that while many people are jumping into the ocean of streaming as a reaction to something ultimately out of their control, you need water to balance out the level of salt and fish in the ocean. Otherwise, it just becomes a bunch of fish flopping around the same few puddles and spitting water at each other. Artists especially are having a harder time due to the current economy because when people are unable to afford necessities, they're less likely to give money to people if they can't afford it. Art and entertainment are a luxury, and it's important to remember that when times get tough. If you're starting streaming to make money, make sure you have another means of economic support before jumping in the deep end. Either through a day job, a partner or a friend who might be able to support you, or by having an alternative means of income. Streaming revenue accounts for maybe 5% of my income at best, and that's including subs, bits, and ad revenue from Twitch. A majority of my income is through platforms like Patreon, since I publish comics and take art commissions. If any of this has pushed you away from streaming, there's a likely chance you might have started streaming for the wrong reasons. The dream of quitting your day job and becoming a big YouTuber or streamer has been a notion since the early 2010s when YouTube ended up going mainstream. The streamers and content creators who make hundreds of thousands or even millions in a year are like queen bees compared to the rest of the hive. There's only one per thousands of worker bees, and some of them help pay it forward into the community while others keep it to themselves. I've never really felt that I would become a big VTuber or content creator. It's something that I'm incredibly passionate about, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't spend hours writing, recording, and editing scripts about it if I didn't have a love for it. A large subscriber count is ultimately secondary to the quality of your content and how people react to you. But I've always enjoyed teaching and helping people find success, even if I don't achieve it myself. So if you have any questions about streaming careers, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them, either in a reply or a video. Teaching and providing entertainment is my primary reason to continue to create. Whether they're a good reason is up to judge, but it's my core foundation that's been driving me for 10 years, despite burnout and life stresses. If you're a content creator, why do you keep creating? That is the question that will ultimately determine your success.